I knew as a young child I wanted to be a teacher, so I knew I wanted to lead in that because all my social opportunities came through education. So I wasn't socialized because my parents were always working. So the only socialization I got was through school. So it meant something to me. And so I never took that for granted. And I think the shift nowadays is not everybody values education the way my family raised me. But I want to bring that back for my families and other families who feel that way.
Hello, everybody. I'm Greg Tomchick. Welcome to the Connected Mindset Podcast, where each week we bring you the stories to better connect with the world around you. Let's dive into this week's podcast. Crystal Goins, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Greg.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're here. So one of the ways we like to start off is, what does the audience, the people listening in today, need to understand about the younger Crystal to understand the Crystal that's with us today?
The younger Crystal is the youngest of 5 kids raised by Filipino immigrant parents, who my dad threw everything in the ocean to come here for a better future for his family, because he just comes from a line of farmers. So I went with them as they worked 4 to 5 jobs the whole time they raised me. I didn't go to preschool. They sent me to private school, but I was out in the dryways as they were maintenance men or apartments or working odd jobs. And so the Crystal I am now has such a innate social perspective in terms of seeing the people who aren't seen. And so young Crystal felt different. And so I've always wanted to make other people feel included. So my wheelhouse is relationship-based classroom management, social emotional learning, and social motivation theory.
And you've been through a lot of transition. I want to dive into transition, education. I think we're at an education paradigm in society. And I think we haven't talked enough about that on this show. A lot of what shapes us as individuals is those younger years of growing up. So I'm curious, from a transition standpoint, making shifts, have you seen any commonalities that you've been able to either improve on or have been really impactful for you as you've went through all of those transitions and pivots, and even thinking back to your parents coming here and think about that as a transition and a shift for them?
My parents drilled in all of us that education was everything. So my dad's dad was illiterate, signed things by blood when he was in the Philippines. And my mom's was on track to be a doctor, but her dad, passed away. And so she could just be a teacher. But I recorded a podcast when I wrote my book, and both parents, and they weren't even in the room together, said their dying wish is that my kids would understand that education comes first. So you can tell that's where I got my mindset from. And that's how I raised my 5 kids, with the same mindset. And then I knew as a young child I wanted to be a teacher, so I knew I wanted to lead in that because all my social opportunities came through education. So I wasn't socialized because my parents were always working. So the only socialization I got was through school. So it meant something to me. And so I never took that for granted. And I think the shift nowadays is not everybody values education the way my family raised me. But I want to bring that back for my families and other families who feel that way.
Love that. Yeah. Do you think it's due to social media that people feel like they're being educated through different means, through unconventional, a lot of people look at it as unconventional ways to learn lessons through something like social media versus something that's a structured system of learning?
Yeah. I just feel like there's just a division between the virtual world and the real world. And the virtual world's a lot easier even when you're a kid. You get to choose the rules of when you engage, when you get to turn off the video, when you get to turn off the device, where the device goes with you. But it doesn't work with a person. If they don't want to go with you, they're not going to go with you. If they don't want to talk to you, they may not even look at you, And so it requires more to them personally, more effort, more everything, more mindset, more care. And not everybody's invested about that because I feel like social media and the devices bring a sense of fulfillment, but it's just not long term. And then when they're all alone, they realize they don't have that sense of camaraderie anymore but they don't realize that till they're alone. And then most of the time there's other vices that they can give into that kind of satisfy that short-term, realization. Even if most people don't even get to that point because they'll just go to their vices. But I hate to say it, the kids are the same way. So kids learn from adults. So if adults, program their life that way, then kids learn that way too, which isn't fair.
Yeah, I want to get into the relationships piece, but one of the things we talk a lot about on this show is the sustainability of your connection to the world. I think there's a lot of those quick hits that you talked about, and I think it's a learned behavior to have that sustainability of connection. And I think it starts internally, and then you bring that to the outside world. I'm curious if you've seen anything, and we'll get into the type of school that you're building and community that you're building. But if you've seen or experienced through your own schooling, how that sustainability can be cultivated and how people are connecting versus just the short, quick hits.
When I grew up with mostly Filipino families and Filipino friends. And a lot of the time my parents would speak with the other parents and they were speaking Tagalog. And necessarily in the Tagalog is called a barkada. So we're a group together. But the ones who connected the most talked to each other most. I mean, I just met you, Greg, and we talked, but we feel connection. Most people are lacking that. They don't have conversations anymore. Oral language is the stem of literacy, and math should be talked about if you don't want to drill and kill them to death, And so we're just missing the language piece. You walk into restaurants or you look at tables and no one's having a conversation. And so I feel like that is kind of the disconnect when it comes to, there should be the conversation and the talk should be evidence that connection is happening. And we grow up with a world that has a lack of communication. They do a lot of this, but they can't articulate and part of that I think is some people have thinking that they can't say it right or it won't be perfect. But we live in a world where authenticity, there's no social norms. There's a term called, we used to assimilate to certain social norms. Now we acculturate. So really, if you got more people in the room who are willing to connect with each other, you build your own culture. That's what we do at our school. I don't have to give into any norms. Just the norms that I give into have to serve everyone in the room.
The collective good.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. You say acculturate?
Yep. Acculturate is the opposite. So that's one of the values we have in our micro school, is to make sure that we cannot live out that value unless we get to know every scholar in the room, every family as well. Because, that scholar goes back to that family and we have to take care of them both. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the educational, company, educational community that you're building and what that looks like now and what your vision is for where it's headed.
So I built Heart White Scholars Micro School. And so I had 4 kids in private school. I had one son who was later, if you're in this area, if you needed counseling or anything or testing, waiting lists, long waiting lists. And my son needed it in first grade. And so I homeschooled him and he ended up having ADHD. We ended up pulling our other kids home because homeschooling allowed us more time as a family that we didn't imagine. And then the homeschooling realm, there aren't as a lot of, in terms you could do homeschooling the way you want, which if I'm a creative and an entrepreneur, that's the wheelhouse of where I want to work my research, because now in the way how schools are designed, research is taking probably a decade to actually come about. Well, by then my kids will be grown and have missed that opportunity. So I had to get entrepreneurial and go into the alternative education space. I got an opportunity with KaiPod Learning. And they start up, they interview educational leaders and give you an opportunity to start up. They gave me 6 months to start this micro school. And I ended up starting it in my home with my 5 kids and 4 other kids. Then I got an opportunity to move my school age kids to a learning center in Greenbrier. So we took it. And then I started with 6 kids at the learning center. And by May I had 17. So this year we are starting with 22. I still have the family day home in the preschool, and it's a half-day Montessori, and then a learning center with kindergarten through 5th grade. What am I doing? I'm making sure that I have a socially motivated option of scholars aged 3 to 18 who take care of themselves, their community, and the world. If I send a whole child home, and when I say whole, they're not academic robots. I'm not going to do and drill academics all day. A Montessori program is half day, which is just all hands-on, indoor, outdoor. We live on 5 acres. That's intentional. But I do half day because I still want the home and the family to be their primary influence in their life. But then when they transition to school age, we go to a learning center in the hub of the city because I want the community to be their classroom. The community comes in for enrichments. We say we slay and we play. Slay Monday and Wednesday. So we do academics in the morning, but academic enrichments in the afternoon. But we play Tuesday and Thursday. We do study halls, and then we do project time. So homeschool world is about growing that child and their interests. So I allow them to bring their interests and projects to the center, allow them to work on it. That's where my daughter learned how to crochet. And I mean, a couple of girls, it was a first grader and a fourth grader, taught each other how to do Miss Mary Mac, the oral language. I had one learn how to do a cartwheel at a haunted time, Lego stop motion videos, but that's stuff they were interested in. And they get to bring it to the center. Then we're opening up the center for social clubs. Not everyone in homeschool needs a full day program because all our parents work full time. But we wanted to open up the center for any other kids that, wanted the social opportunity. So we bring the social club. So like a group games, team building activities, and project time. And we offer Learning Lab. Learning Lab on Tuesdays, Thursdays looks like my one boy, George, was so inspired by the Lego movie. I'm going to do a video one day. My 2 Lego movie people go, we're going to teach you, George. That's what Learning Lab's about. Okay, well, we can teach you. Who here wants to learn how to do a Lego movie? Okay, we'll take you here. You 5? Okay, we're going to teach you during Learning Lab. So it's a student-directed time where if there's something they want to learn or if one of the kids wants to teach something, they have the opportunity to be, leaders and teachers in the classroom. And we're mixed ages, so that is organic. That's how families are designed. So we know how to handle it when we're together. And then that's just, for us, our mission is social motivational theory in terms of taking care of ourselves. And the lesson that my kids are learning, especially the ones who are coming the second year, is that taking care of themselves is really important if you want other people to be taken care of in the room. So they learn that if they don't clean up after themselves, if they're leaving their stuff around, you're asking your teacher to clean up after. So that takes away time from your teacher to actually spend time with you. So if you aren't doing your part to pick up after yourself, then that means that they can't spend time with you. And that's kind of a deep revelation for some elementary kids, but literally that was our morning meeting topic today. We have to take care of each other. And because we come from strong families, we understand, we relate quickly to it because family is really important to us.
Hey everyone, this episode is sponsored by my company, Valor Cybersecurity, where we help defense contractors navigate the uncharted waters of cybersecurity compliance. As a cyber attack victim myself, I know the impact that this plays in people's lives, and at Valor, we solve that each and every day. If you're a defense contractor feeling frustrated and confused when it comes to cybersecurity compliance, visit valor-cybersecurity.com, take our free assessment, and get started on your journey to clarity in cybersecurity. Yeah, I love that. I think we have different families in the community, but for some reason, I feel like the traditional school system, it seems more transactional,
Yes.
less relationships being built. So, I'm curious what you see, right now to the alternative kind of education model. It seems like people are slowly moving that direction, or at least I see a shift. And I feel like when you're in something, you feel like everybody's in it. Yeah. But looking at it from my perspective, I see a lot of parents around me questioning homeschool versus private school versus public school. Yeah. I'm curious what you see as the biggest force multiplier to get somebody to take that plunge into some type of community similar to the one you're building.
There are forces that be in life that we can't control. So in my community, it might be that you started being a caregiver. Maybe you're a single parent. Maybe there's a health issue with your child or within your family that necessarily it shifts everything in the family. Maybe the work hours have shifted, the number of days, there might have been a big tragedy. And honestly, you're right. Traditional schools are businesses and they're made the same way. Whether you pay for it or you don't pay for it, they can only operate in certain ways. But in alternative education space, in homeschooling, that's why it's designed that way. We partner with you, for tutoring and enrichment, but we don't take full responsibility on that paperwork. You're responsible. It's scary to take that responsibility, but sometimes in life, I feel like when my son was on a waiting list, I was given no choice. And there are some situations as parents, and you may feel shameful in the moment that you're the only one, but there's some things in life where perhaps your values aren't. If you're working more and then you're seeing your kid tired and, I don't know, just not themselves, they're at self at home, but the moment you drop them off at school, it's like they turn into something else. You can't watch that year after year. And as a parent who cares, you do something about it.
Yep.
And I think that's what you just have to come to a point where you can't take it anymore. And then you take action in your own hands.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the quote. It's like when the pain of feeling the same exceeds the pain of change, because when we anticipate a change, we start to feel the fear, and that pain just overtakes us. And until that, pain of being like, I can't see my kid throw this fit anymore, or I can't, see them not speaking, or whatever that piece of it is. I think it starts as lifestyle. And then that lifestyle is like, I need to take the plunge to get to a better state in our family. And I think a lot of people don't know they have the option. So for them to hear that there are options out there that you can look into, what would they search? Like alternative education, homeschooling curriculums? What would be the...
So most cities are referred to programs like mine as homeschool tutoring and enrichment programs. You'll also see it as micro schools. And not every, and when you're homeschooled, just know that there are many ways to homeschool. And depending on the different vantage points of what you think homeschool is, you may not even be welcome in that space. But different private and public schools feel the same way. So just know that there's some bias in the space, but alternative education in general. Vela is a great network. That's kind of like the biggest network. If you go to KaiPod Learning, you'll literally be able to put in your zip code and we'll tell you which micro schools. That's the network I'm in. There's the National Microschooling Network. That's another one that I'm in. The National Microschooling Center, actually. So they're out there, but this movement is parent driven. Yeah. So I happen to be a parent and a teacher, but it's been both. A teacher who can't take, the way traditional learning is going, takes it in their own hands. But most of the time, you don't have to be a teacher. You just have to have the passion to give your kids. It's not unheard of in homeschooling to outsource certain things. Yeah. Even in my micro school, if I have a certain need, I'll outsource a math tutor or a reading specialist. I can do that. So, but I guess the other thing I'll bring up to you, Greg, is you get sick of when you know what's right for your kid and you're stuck in a box and you can't provide that for them. So like my one son would not come outside. We moved to 5 acres for one, because we needed him to just take. But in COVID changed a lot of things in these kids. It created a lot of fears. So he got stung by a bee when he was finally socialized, and he wore full long sleeve and pants forever, even the summer, because he was scared of being outside. Well, he's in 5th grade. So I actually, built a partnership with Wonder Forest Nature School. And I intentionally signed him up because I saw how much even moving to 5 acres freed him up. And that's why he tried baseball and stuff. And then I knew some of the self-regulation and self-management things, it needed to be learned out in nature. So I signed them up to forest school. So half of my kids go to forest school on Tuesday and half of my kids go to forest school on Thursday. So in this space, it's just this beautiful thing where I see kids' needs and I get to partner with other businesses and community enrichments to give them what they want. I made that partnership last February, just because I knew by research it was going to fix some of the problems that some of my scholars were dealing with.
Absolutely. I see a big difference between formal education and life education.
Yeah.
And I've always thought of homeschool when I was growing up, like the kids that were homeschooled were not, I wouldn't say more street smart. Maybe they were more street smart, but they were more into experimentation and curiosity than the other kids. And I think that is like life 101, like life after school is when you get the opportunity to express those traits that you developed through traditional, the K through 12 model. But if that's stunted because you have to raise your hand or you have to, you're learning some of the skills that are essential for life. Yeah. But that's only a small fraction of what you're really learning. Yeah. That set you up for either entrepreneurial or business or even cultural and social success. And I think that's the point of education. Is the social and cultural success versus I can do a math problem as well.
Well, now you compete with AI. So then our kids are growing up in a generation now where their jobs out there, they aren't going to exist because we have AI. So that's the thing. I wasn't willing to wait the 10 years for research to happen because my kids are going to have a lot more things to deal with that we necessarily didn't. And remember, traditional education before the internet was to get them a job, in a factory somewhere or some sort of career. But now the career field is changing. AI is going to change a lot of that. So it's not what and it's not who you ask. Because you got a bot to ask and he knows a lot, So I just want my kids not to be scared of opportunity. I don't want them scared to think. I want them to be curious for life. And I just realized things are easy. Like even my toddlers, Mom, I need that. Just click it. No, that's not how it works, But they're growing up with poor examples a lot of the times of how things work. And then they're easily disappointed when things don't work, but they really have no understanding how much of a process it is. So I just want in my option, we understand what, the process of learning is and the process of life. They just know they don't have to do it alone. They know they have us. And I'm very strategic in making sure that it's like multi-generational and we all have different gifts in the room. And I mean, my preschool teacher and my learning center manager, they were my Montessori teachers for my own kids. But they're my spiritual mamas. They take care of me. And when they say things in authority, it does not come out the same way as I say it, because they are seasoned and wise and the kids see them differently. And I want that. I want my kids and my scholars to be around many different types of people because that's what a village and a community should be like. And I want my school and quotation marks to kind of exemplify that because they're going to be out there in the community and life, and I want them to thrive, not fail just by culture shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that that leads right into the systems of support. And when I was looking into your background, one of the things that stuck out because I'm big into trying to find systems so we don't repeat the same negative loop throughout generations and just throughout different communities that we're in, and we learn those lessons. So I wanted to get your thoughts on systems of support that you have implemented into your school, and then which ones have been important, to you as an individual.
Yeah. So, and this came straight from my family as well. So if there were 5 kids and my parents were always working, they were immigrants, we ran that household. So when I got a job and I married my wonderful husband, Ben, hi, honey, we moved to South Carolina and there were no teaching jobs. I took over a class that was left in kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. So when I absorbed that classroom, I made this acronym said PART, that they need to be prepped and ready, attitude awareness, respectful and responsible, and teamwork. Well, I didn't know it at the time. I wrote a book on it. I used it for relationship and classroom management. I consult on that, and I, collected research that got me to social emotional learning, social motivational theory. PART in my research is really a cognitive decision-making framework. So when we're on a mindfulness podcast, it all starts with how do you make that responsible decision and how do you teach a kid who has the attention span of a bee to make the right decision. So have all of these visuals about how part that kind of, show what it means, but they have to be prepped and ready first. Then they have to have attitude awareness because you can't do anything with a bad attitude. And so attitude awareness means there's something emotionally not right. Respect and responsibility is the nature of any relationship, especially in a productive relationship that you're like at school. And then teamwork, you want them to have that collective vibe, because if they're not working together in that classroom, you're not getting anything done. So we would say my part framework goes with a set of self-talks called real talk. And one of the real talks I say is, we are a team. We wait for each other. Well, ultimately, you're not really a team player if you're not willing to wait for somebody else. And our kids aren't in many situations where they're asked to wait. And I find in the classroom, when it comes to learning, it's not a quick fix. It's a process. And so if your teammates are in it with you, they're going to wait with you as well. And so that framework has taken me, I've taught it in kindergarten and first, and now I teach it K through 5. I teach it to teachers. And then when I collected my research, it proved that cognitive decision-making process actually helps teachers in stressful situations make a decision for themselves that leads to teacher self-efficacy, which means that they believe that they can accomplish a goal. But it also leads to job satisfaction because it's not stressful anymore because they know exactly what to do. If they aren't prepped and ready, they can't move on. If their attitude's not in check, they can't move on. Respect and responsibility, when that kid is not being the nicest and you're about to lose your cool, bring him back to respect. What are you responsible for? And then the team aspect means that I'm for you and I've got your back, because we are a team. And so
part, right?
Yeah.
Prepped and ready. Attitude.
We do our part and we're partners in teaching and learning.
Mm-hmm. That's catchy. I think that's something you can get behind from a motivation standpoint. And as more teachers lose that passion that they once had for teaching. And I see it, each year when I have friends that are teachers, like they're like, all right, I have to transition careers because it's just too hard. So giving them a system and a framework to really help them thrive, I think helps our communities be better as well. So I'm a huge fan of the impact you're having and where the movement is headed. I think it's going to be cool to see as it continues to grow, and that unique mind that you have through your studies and through doing the experimental work that needs to be done to come to some of these conclusions is extremely impressive. One of the ways we like to end the show, before we get there, how can folks support you, get in contact with you to learn more about the mission that you're on?
So we're Heartway Scholars and we just became nonprofit. So we would really love your support. So www.heartwayscholars.com. My brand is the Resilient Teacher Mom. I mean, I've been blogging, I wrote a book. You can actually go to www.theresilientteachermom.com and find all my businesses. If you're a teacher, that's where I consult from, is Teachers as Partners. Partnership is like my jam. Like, I'll teach you how it starts with self, then the job and the community. And part of the reason why I started Heartway Scholars is I want it for my kids. Like, I love this research, but no one was giving me the space to actually practice it. So I created the option to practice it, and we're thriving. And it's a beautiful picture of what it can be. And so I will be in this work for a while, Greg. I will be in this work for a while.
I love it. We'll make sure all those links are in the show notes. So one of the questions we like to end the show with is, what does connection, the word, mean to you today?
Oh, everything. It means life. Relationships is like my deal. Like, I'm a relationship-based mom and educator. Connection is life. I've actually been there when kids have taken their life. I'm a young life leader too. And there were a couple years, I had one that when I'd done different areas, and I had in both areas, one was taken by a drunk driver, one committed suicide. And when I was raising my kids, I never took that for granted. So connect. My big slogan was, let's get social, And I think that's an option when it used to not be. But now people want to, they just don't want to be social anymore. And I'm trying to change that in the kids. Just because you're on social media does not mean you're social in real life. And it's not as scary as you think if you find the right people.
I love it. Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you're feeling more connected from this episode, please like, subscribe, and share with someone that you care about. And I'll see you on the next episode of the Connected Mindset Podcast.